If you're doing any creative work in your life, I highly recommend you read Steal Like an Artist by Austin Kleon. I got 4 principles from this book that I think you could apply to any creative work in your life, whether it's YouTube or anything else. The first is the principle of reverse engineering, which basically means copying from people who are far better than we are. Better in terms of their creative capacity, better in terms of their technical skill. Because when we start off, we have like neither really. It's like there's so much that we need to learn and need to develop in terms of being creative and in terms of the technical skill necessary to express our creativity. Well, he recommends, just copy from people who are really good, because over time, if you do it like conscientiously, not just mindlessly, copying the superficial things, but if you really try to, copy their technique, over time, not only will you develop a better technique, a technique that approaches their capacity, but you might even learn to see the world in the way that they saw the world, which was necessary to produce their kind of art. And actually, I talk about this. I just did a video the other day on this book, an amazing book. I only read chapter 1 so far, Decoding Greatness. But I did a video on chapter 1, which talks about this principle of reverse engineering. So I'll be going into this more in the coming videos as I do videos on more chapters. The next thing he talks about is the idea of, when you're starting off, it can be really daunting, and because almost all of us have like psychological hurdles that we have to get over, like our doubts, our fears, our insecurities, and then on top of that, it's hurdles to develop our creativity and our technical capacity. And his point is, when we start imitating people who are far better, even people who have long since died, it's like the equivalent of creating a fan club, like cheerleaders or mentors, where you could apprentice yourself to somebody who lived 200 years ago. And I think we all need people in our corner, when we're just starting off, because it's so daunting for so many ways. And so if you're like, oh, I have these people who are basically my cheerleaders, they're like my own imagined fan club, and I'm learning from them and I'm honing my skill and developing my capacity. I think that can be really, really beneficial for most of us who are starting off, who have so far to go in terms of getting to where we'd like to be, creatively. So that was another one. A third principle, so he says, sometimes you have to produce things in order to find out who you are. It's not necessarily like, well, you sit around thinking, and contemplating and, doing all this like reflective work in order to determine who you are. It's like sometimes you just have to start producing stuff. And it's only through the act of producing things that you can actually find out who you are. And, he recommends, or he says, he's like, sometimes you put things online. Like, let's suppose you start a YouTube channel or you start a blog or whatever else. You put things online not because you necessarily have something to say, but because you're trying to find something to say. So he's like, just find things that interest you, find things that resonate with you, find things that you're passionate about, and discuss them online. And just the act of like discussing them or trying to produce things or copying things from people who are far better than we are and putting it online. Just that act of like getting started might help you figure out like who you really are and what deep down, meaningful thing you're trying to express through whatever creative act. And the last principle, which is related to that one, is, like basically copy things that you love in order to find your passion. Okay, and this is really, I think it's a really beautiful concept, because I think the vast majority of us go through life relatively unskilled at looking deep inside ourselves to determine what is most meaningful and how can we express that. It's just like life in general makes it easy, not to go there. And it's just the way things are. It's just how it is. And I think most of us are just really unskilled at like really trying to pull from within those things that are really meaningful, to us. And then even if we're able to do that, being able to express it in a way that we think, really gives like meaning to, what it is that we're trying to express. And so, it's the idea of just copy things that you love. Because if you don't have the skill to get started, just copy. And just the act of copying things that you love will help develop the skill of expressing things that you love, right? Because it's like a skill that most of us, I think, don't develop. And there, he's got two quotes in the book. One, this guy, Yohji Yamamoto, is a Japanese fashion designer. He says, start copying what you love. Copy, 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 copy. At the end of the copy, you will find yourself, right? So it's not necessarily about staring at your belly button, trying to determine, what it is that you're all about. Just get started. Copy things that you're passionate about. Then he also has a quote from Francis Ford Coppola, famous American film producer, probably most famous for the Godfather series. He says, we want you to take from us and you will put it in your own voice, and that's how you will find your voice. And that's how you begin, right? I mean, it's really hard to find our own voice, particularly if we don't have a starting point. So the whole idea behind this is, to find your voice, to find those things those things or that thing that is most meaningful to you. Start by copying something beautiful, that you're really passionate about. And it's the process of going through that, copying, developing your skill, presenting it to the world, even if it's really bad at first. It's like that will help you extract from within those things that are most meaningful, and it will help you express, those things that you want to express. Read the book. It's really wonderful. Thanks for watching. Have a great day.